Say that's the message from the NBA during Super Bowl week.
Good point.
Happy hour somewhere, and right now those smiles might be coming from L.A.
Maybe, yes. Here's the thing. We had a Woj bomb dropped on us this morning, and it's one that will have a ripple effect throughout the NBA as Anthony Davis wants out of the Big Easy. That's right, it was a Woj bomb. It took place at exactly 7:09 a.m. Eastern time, and it took the NBA world by storm. Our Adrian Wojnarowski saying this. Agent Rich Paul has notified the New Orleans Pelicans that all NBA forward Anthony Davis has no intention of signing a contract extension if and when presented, and that he has requested a trade. Paul told ESPN on Monday, and quote, reaction from the Pelicans today, starting with head coach Alvin Gentry.
Do you expect anything to happen before the deadline?
That one you'd have to take up with Dell and Mickey.
If you were to get injured, you would lose leverage as far as being able to have him as a trade asset. From that standpoint, does that leave you wary at all to play him?
No. The simple answer is no. I mean, when guys are ready to play and he wants to, he's already made it clear that he wants to play, then we're going to play him.
Drew, what do you think this franchise needs in order to be able to keep a player like Anthony Davis?
Couldn't tell you.
You guys, you don't even start to think about why someone would leave a situation. I mean, this would be the most expensive contract in NBA history.
Right. Again, I guess Anthony's leaving, so I don't know.
Lots of questions right now, but late this afternoon, the Pelicans released a statement about the trade news. Here's part of what it says. Relative to specific talks of a trade, we will do this on our timeline, one that will make sense for our team, and it will not be dictated by those outside of our organization. We have also requested the league to strictly enforce the tampering rules associated with this transaction, end quote. So this news comes 10 days after Davis injured his left index finger, suffering a volar plate avulsion fracture in the Pelicans' loss to Portland. So far, he's missed 4 games. The Pelicans have lost 3 of them. Davis was expected to miss 1 to 2 weeks with the injury on his non-shooting hand, and again, that was 10 days ago. He is still out for now. As for his contract situation, the 5-time All-Star can become a free agent next year, the summer of 2020. He could sign a 5-year max deal worth $240 million if he re-signs with the Pelicans. But now, again, Woj is saying Davis's agent Rich Paul has made it clear he will not sign it. So if he gets his wish to be traded before then, he can re-sign with the team, but only get $205 million with the team that he's traded to. If he doesn't get traded and leaves next summer as a free agent, the max he can get is 4 years, $152, so a significant difference financially. The man who broke the story, Adrian Wojnarowski, joins me now. And first, Woj, let's start with New Orleans. The Pelicans maybe thought about this coming. The news drops today, thanks to you. What are they going to do?
Well, there was an expectation that this was becoming an inevitability, and they got it this weekend, and they've got 10 days until the trade deadline. New Orleans is in no rush to do a deal for Anthony Davis. Remember, as you said, he's under contract all the way through next season. And for them to do a deal between now and February 7th, I'm told they've got to be overwhelmed with an offer that they can't believe would be available later for them. And that's going to be difficult to do, especially because the Celtics won't be involved between now and the trade deadline because they can't do a deal until later in the spring, because they have Kyrie Irving on the roster.
Okay, so we'll break that down because that is a little bit confusing. So that's New Orleans right now. What about Anthony Davis? Of course, he's out with the finger, but what's he going to do?
Well, the one thing that he and Rich Paul have left to do between now and the trade deadline is, let's say there's no traction on a Lakers deal. They could essentially tell the organization, and they can tell the rest of the league, that we're only going to sign an extension with the Lakers. So if you trade us somewhere else, I'll be a rental player. I'll go to LA in 2020. That may not stop teams from going ahead and doing it anyway, but it does put some pressure, and it might depress the market. But ultimately, New Orleans still has control because they're the ones who decide if there's going to be a trade or not.
The Lakers, of course, have been a topic for a very long time. You go back to December when there was talk of tampering, when LeBron answered the question about having AD there. By the way, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, both represented by Rich Paul. So Magic Johnson and company, what's he doing right now? Because we got 10 days till the deadline.
They've got to put together their young players, draft picks, their best assets outside of LeBron James, and make a compelling offer to New Orleans. Remember, 2 years ago, they didn't do it with Indiana with Paul George. They thought they'd get him in free agency. They didn't get him. Kawhi Leonard, they didn't make an overwhelming offer to the Spurs. Thought they'd get him in free agency. They're trailing heading into this summer with Leonard. Right now, they have an opportunity with Davis to try to find a way to get a deal done. But the Lakers may not have the kind of assets that just make New Orleans do this now. The Pelicans may just wait to see what Boston can do post-trade deadline. Explain that. It is a little confusing. Why can't they do anything now? Because of the provisions of the contracts that Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis both have. Like, you can't have two of those designated player exception contracts on your roster at once. They need Kyrie Irving to get into free agency on July 1. Then they can do it. But they could agree to a trade in principle around the draft, prior to the draft, finalize it on July 1. But essentially, Boston, who has coveted Anthony Davis for a long time, they need to, what they'll probably do is tell New Orleans, put the brakes on. We're going to make you a big offer at some point. You got to wait for the trade deadline to pass, and let's get to the offseason. They certainly have the most assets, but remember, Anthony Davis said this recently. It isn't about the money. It's about going to the right team and establishing a legacy. We'll see how this plays out. Woj, stand by. Kevin, over to you.
Sage, the Brow is just the latest superstar to request a trade. Remember, 2 summers ago, Paul George said he wanted out of Indiana. He was traded to the Thunder less than a month later. Around that same time, Kyrie made it clear that he no longer wanted to play alongside LeBron in Cleveland. By the end of the summer, he had been dealt to Boston in a blockbuster trade. Last season, we had the Kawhi Leonard saga. After months of speculation about possible tension between Leonard and the Spurs regarding his quad injury, Kawhi was traded to the Raptors this past offseason. Most recently, Jimmy Butler had his falling out with the Timberwolves and was eventually dealt to Philly and the Sixers. Another star who famously changed teams, Kevin Durant, was asked earlier today if trade demands are a topic among players.
AD wanted to play basketball somewhere else. Like, it's not like the president shutting down the government. It's just basketball. So, of course, we talk about it. And we all, as players, we want guys to do exactly what they want to do in this league. We have a short amount of time, so why not do what you want?
Great to have Jalen Rose with us here on SportsCenter. Woj just said this. The Pelicans are in no rush when it comes to pressure and expectations. What's on the line here for the Lakers in the next 10 days to acquire Anthony Davis before that trade deadline?
Woj alluded to it. The Lakers cannot pump fake. They missed out on a couple of opportunities, in particular with Paul George. He was in an Indiana Pacer uniform, said he wanted to be the Lakers. They did not go and get him. They felt they could do it at the end of the year. He gets traded to OKC as a rental player, falls in love with it, and now he's starting in the All-Star game. Guess whose spot that he took? Anthony Davis, who has had career highs for the Pelicans in points, rebounds, assists, and steals, but yet they're in the lottery. So for the Lakers, this is basically Rich Paul and Anthony Davis saying, y'all have a 10-day contract until the trade deadline to get this done. If it does not get done, then it gets opened up to other suitors, in particular the Boston Celtics this summer.
All right, in this stare down, the Lakers can't afford to blink. And back in September, you said that we would be talking about Anthony Davis being a Laker prior to next season. What led you to make that statement back then?
Well, just talking to people in the league and understanding that's where today's game is. And to bring things full circle, when Danny Ainge brought his big three together in Boston with Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce, it was the precursor to players now controlling their own destiny through what I'm calling pre-agency. That's a year and a half before their deal is actually up, letting the team know that they don't want to re-sign. So when an MVP player like LeBron James tells the Cleveland Cavaliers, basically, I can't win a championship here, I need to go to Miami to make it happen, now that paves the way for Kevin Durant to join the 73-win team. It paves the way for the guys that you mentioned earlier, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving, Paul George, all of those guys, and Kawhi Leonard, to tell the teams the exact same thing. So for the Lakers, you must strike right now. And for Anthony Davis, it's really unfortunate watching his team, in particular, Drew Holiday, look heartbroken in that interview.
Yeah, you foresaw it. I'm going to take you to Vegas before the Super Bowl, Jalen. Thank you so much here for joining us on SportsCenter. So we take a look at the Western Conference. The Pelicans currently sit at 13th, ahead of only the Grizzlies and the Suns. They're 6 games back, the Clippers, for that 8th and final playoff spot. Look at the Lakers sitting in that 9th spot, 2 games out. And coming up, we'll go back out to PTI for a fresh discussion. Where's the best landing spot for AD and the Pelicans? That's ahead. Sage?
Also, breaking news this morning on SportsCenter. Agent Rich Paul is telling our Adrian Wojnarowski that Paul has notified the Pelicans Anthony Davis has zero intention of signing a contract extension if and when presented, and that Davis is requesting a trade. Here is the quote to Woj. Anthony wanted to be honest and clear with his intention, and that's the reason for informing them of this decision now. That's in the best interest of both Anthony's and the future of the organization. You can't have a case of the Mondays when you wake up to news like that. Hello, I'm Nicole. He is Randy.
Unless you're the Pelicans.
Maybe.
James Harden, though, has been ridiculous. Rockets have been winning, and last night, Harden and Houston got some help.
Magic.
Yeah, the magic helped, but also Chris Paul is back. So what would that mean for Harden's historic month of January? Is there enough basketball to go around? Yeah, for a night at least there was. That is Chris Paul. First game since December 20th. He's missed 17 straight with a hamstring. James Harden, though, got his. And I mean early. 5-0 Magic. Nope. Knocked down a 3. Harden off to a good start. Here, though, something we haven't seen in a while. That is an assist. Kenneth Faried to James Harden. So 87 straight field goals without an assist. And suddenly James Harden is assisted upon. Here is how long that streak has been, because the player who got the assist was Kenneth Faried. He wasn't on the team when the streak started. And one player who was a Rocket is now a Bull. That is Carmelo Anthony. Harden went 304 straight points without an assisted bucket. That span, we told you about the 87 straight field goals unassisted. That's a streak more than twice as long as any other player in the last 10 seasons. And he did some assisting himself during the span. 28 dimes in between assisted buckets for Harden. That led to 70 Rockets points. All right, what about the rest of the game? Glad you asked. Magic up as many as 15 at one point. Harden had to get some rest. He's on the bench, so Chris Paul had to go to work, and he did. A triple from the wing, 12 points in 25 minutes for CP3. There, it's just quickness over size. Like he's working on Mo Bamba. Harden said CP3 had some extra pep. We'll hear more from Harden in a moment. Fourth quarter, Rockets down by 3, cutting it to 1 thanks to the floater for Harden, his first made field goal in almost 20 minutes of gameplay. That over 2 Magic defenders. 23rd straight 30-point game for Harden. That's the 4th longest streak all time. Here, Evan Fournier blamed himself. He went under the screen, allowing Harden to knock down the 3. So Fournier blames himself for that. What about this? There's no screen involved.
That's just Harden.
Yeah, and it is Harden and maybe a little push-off. 8th 40-point game this month for the Beard. First since MJ to have 18 or more 40-point games at this point of a season. Rockets, 103-98 winners. Here is Harden on how CP3 looks.
He looked good. He looked like he had an extra pep in his step. Obviously, his first game back, but, he did that same spin move and some other moves to, check his body and how it felt. He looked great. He made some big-time shots. It's good to see him back on the floor.
For me, I've been out for so long, you just want to try to get some type of rhythm and push the pace and make sure guys, getting involved. But James going to be James, and I don't care who on the court, me, anybody, he going to be him, and we need him to be him. That's why he's the MVP.
CP3's return, although the outfit did cost someone a couch somewhere. Diminished Harden's production a little bit? No, because Harden still got his. Matter of fact, 1 game to play left this month. Harden is averaging 44 points per game in January. That would be the 2nd most ever in the month of January and the most in any calendar month since Wilt Chamberlain, March 1963.
What is it that they're saying about Luka Doncic and Dennis Smith Jr.? Redundant skill set? Raptors, Mavs, I don't know. Early in the first, should we do a chemistry check? Dennis Smith Jr. cutting backdoor. Doncic, dime, alley-oop. Chemistry looks fine there. That seemed to work. Smith at 13 points, 6 assists. Luka's line was better. This is in the 3rd, game tied at 81. And sharing is caring, setting up your teammate. Also caring, Dwight Powell says thank you. Hit 8 points. 10 minutes to go in the 4th. Mavs out for Doncic. A little coast-to-coast action. New York to L.A. Putting on a show. I personally like Dirk's reaction. I just like seeing Dirk. Full disclosure. Mavs up 2 now. Doncic sizing up Serge Ibaka. Hits the 3. Contested. Doesn't matter. Ibaka's 6'10". Doncic is a couple inches shorter. Does not care. It was not all Doncic because Kawhi also played. Raptors were down 106-101. Kawhi makes it a 3-point game. And then with the Raptors down 2, Kawhi had 33 points and 10 rebounds. Back to Doncic. Mavs down 111-108. He's 1 assist away from a triple-double. He gets it. More on his place in NBA history in a second. But first, the line. Doncic, 35 points, 12 rebounds, and those 10 assists. But Kawhi is in his 4th straight game with more than 30 points. More than 30 points and a win for the Raptors. 123-120 was the final in this one. Can we go back and talk about Luka just a little bit? Because before there was Luka, there was LeBron. And now when you look up the youngest player in NBA history with a 30-point triple-double, you're going to see Luka's name. It had been LeBron's from an April 2005 game in which he dropped 40, 10, and 10 against the Bucks. That was back when LeBron was 20 and Luka was 6. Doncic is also the 7th rookie in NBA history, regardless of age, with a 35-point triple-double. Look at the company he keeps. The other 6, they're either Hall of Famers or Steph Curry. Or
future Hall of Famer.